Hello and welcome to the episode 8, I believe, of the Healthy Business Leaders Show. And today I'm really excited to be joined by Dr. Corrie Block, who is UAE's top business coach. There's lots and lots of things to talk about, from adulation and awards and stuff like that. So if it's okay with
Thank you.
you, do you mind blowing your own trumpet for 30 seconds and tell us a bit more about you and your experience and what you do?
Sure. It's humbling, like the whole UAE's top business coach thing, because I'll be honest with you, I have no idea the criteria by which you would even make that call. And now that it's made, like a number of organizations, SHRM, Forbes, and others have trumpeted it, which is fine. I'm flattered, but honestly, I can't defend that. So, I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of coaches out there, different styles, and I'm not everybody's cup of tea, to be honest. So, yeah, I think maybe a talented executive coach and a passionate executive coach. That's probably true. Top, I'm not quite sure, but my marketing team loves it, so we're going to stick with that. But yeah, I actually started in coaching because my clients wanted it. I started out in entrepreneurship. I started 5 of my own companies before the age of 25, exited those by the age of 29. Started 3 more companies. I did 2 master's degrees, 2 doctorate degrees, then postgraduate studies in finance at Harvard and artificial intelligence at MIT. And then since then, it just sort of became ridiculous that I kept adding degrees to my profile on LinkedIn. If you looked at my LinkedIn profile, it's like a week long. It's really
Yeah,
terrible. So I started writing books. And so the last few years, I've been writing a book every year. Oh, yeah, there it is.
yeah.
That's
Smart
awesome.
CEO.
Yeah, Spartan Sea. It was actually all of my books, Cameron, started out with some sort of frustration that I have with the world, and I kind of want to make it right, you know. So Spartan CEO was was my frustration with my own coaching clients, and God bless them. I love all of them. I don't let anybody in my head or in my heart unless I'm actually passionate about them and I care about them. The challenge was, like, I had really, really amazing, high performing, highly productive CEO clients, and I had really kind of lazy and lackluster and mediocre CEO clients, and they didn't seem to know themselves which side of that line they were on. And for me, it was very frustrating because it didn't matter which of those CEOs it was. Like, they had 5,000 families or more that they were taking care of. And I just really wanted people to perform at their very best if they're taking care of that many families. So I decided, look, the job title doesn't mean anything, right? John Maxwell was right. And if we want to learn what the differentiators and drivers of high performing leaders are, then we should follow the science. I know that I'm recognized as a leadership guru in the Middle East and North Africa, which is flattering again. But if you want to learn leadership, Cameron, don't follow me, follow the science, because that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I remember that from my last conversation. You said that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Follow the science. Yeah, I like that. I mean, just on that point. I mean, obviously, I'm from the health perspective. We deal with lots of CEOs, business
Yeah,
owners,
that's
that
right.
kind of stuff. So we had a lot of synergy on our last conversation. But I want to talk specifically, about your journey. And there's a bit in the book
Yeah,
that I highlighted and showed you earlier, but about that journey from kind of feeling out of shape and what you did and how that kind of took form for you.
yeah. Yeah, I was the poster child for the fat consultant. Like, honestly, I had my suits out like this, and I was, the poor buttons on my shirt, man, like the stress, the anxiety that those buttons felt every day.
And if
And I
I'm
was
proud,
like, and I was already really successful, right? I was really successful as a strategist, as an entrepreneur. I was really successful as a consultant, and even as a coach. And I was like, really, I was helping people to perform at their very best. And meanwhile, I was looking in the mirror every day, going, what is that? Like,
yeah,
what is going on with you? And I thought, you know what? I have zero excuse, right? I'm an executive coach. I know about performance. I brain hack. That's my job, right? So I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I was like, you are the most disciplined person that you know. Like, who builds 5 companies at the same time and does a master's degree and then does double doctorates and builds 3 more companies? Like, who does that? Okay. You have to be the most disciplined person you know. I've been a 5 a.m. person my whole life, pretty much. So I'm like, I have to be able to get this right under control. Something has to click. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna hack the. Can I swear? Can I say shit? I'm gonna hack the shit out of myself. Anyway, you can bleep it later. So I was like, I'm gonna hack myself, and this is gonna be great. So I decided, okay, I'm going to drink my own Kool-Aid, follow my own program. And it's 21 days, no days off, right? So that's the first thing you need to do in order to build a habit. The no days off thing is super important because it has to fit into your circadian rhythm. It has to fit into your sleeping and eating cycle, right? So you sleep at the same time every day, you wake up at the same time every day, the sun comes up, the sun goes down. That's really important for building that circadian rhythm, that cycle. And if you're putting something like exercise into that rhythm and it's clicking at the same time at every day at the same
Yeah.
time, then it starts to wire as a part of that rhythm so that when it approaches that time of the day, you're already moving in the direction of that.
Yeah.
Second thing was to make sure that I lowered the bar to entry, lowered the risk factor involved in like doing exercise because I didn't want to do it, right? I didn't want to go to the gym. I don't want to lift things. I don't want to run. Anyway, so I'm going to have to argue myself into doing that. But, putting 45 minutes or an hour in at the gym, that's hard. Okay. So what I did was I just broke it down into tiny little things that were easy, something that I could say yes to. I don't want to say yes to the gym, but I can say yes to like putting on my shoes. So by setting the goal really, really low, right, and making the barrier to entry really, really low, it reduced the amount of activation energy that was required to stimulate a response. And so I'd be sitting on the couch, my alarm would go off, time to go to the gym, and I'd be like, well, you don't have to go to the gym, but you have to put on your shoes. Well, I can do that, right? So you set the bar so low that even you would laugh at yourself if you don't do it. And I did that. I swear to you, it was days. It was days. I was like, you don't have to go to the gym, but you have to put all your stuff in the bag. You don't have to go to the gym, but you have to put the bag in the car. You don't have to go to the gym, but you have to drive to the mall, which is where the gym is, but also the movie theater. See where I'm going with that? Right. So then I'd park at the mall and I'd be like, oh, you don't have to work out, but you have to carry your bag into the mall, even if you decide to go to PF Chang's for some of those awesome shrimp. So I'd be like arguing myself into these tiny, tiny little goals all along the way. And you don't have to work out, but you have to touch your card onto the thing that says that you were there. So at least the computer thinks you were at the gym. And you don't have to work out, but you have to get your clothes on. You don't have to finish the class, but you have to start it. You just have to go get your equipment set up and just do the first thing. And that's honestly what I did every single day. It was exhausting. It was exhausting. After about 10 days, though, I started forgetting steps. And this is where the magic happens, right? This is where the magic happens is when, I'd be motivated. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. Then I get up and I argue myself into it. But I would forget to argue myself to drive to the mall and then actually go to the gym. I would just do it. And I would just take my bag with me and I'd be forgetting steps because as it fits into my circadian rhythm and it becomes sort of a pattern set of behaviors, it just sort of slides away and my body gets used to it. My brain gets used to it. And then I don't think about it anymore. And that's the most powerful thing you can learn actually is how to turn motivation, which is unbelievably weak and frail, into something like habit, which is unbelievably powerful and easy. And the distance between motivation and habit is called discipline. And that discipline, that is the biggest thing. I think that's the largest differentiator that I've ever found between high performing and low performing executives and organizations is that ability to choose what you do regardless of how you feel.
Yeah, I think that's that. I remember this last time in our conversation. That is an absolute golden nugget because nobody talks. I mean, maybe in your space, but in my space, nobody. So if you look at some of the information that's given out by personal trainers, I look at it and I say, well, that's fine for you because you've been training for 20 years, right? But
Yeah,
the
that's right.
individual you're talking to is 50, out of shape, smokes, drinks, and they're thinking about all the reasons they shouldn't be doing it, right? But breaking it
Yeah,
down, I think something we tell our clients actually based on our previous conversation was like
yeah,
sleep in your socks, man. Sleep in
yeah.
your training gear. So you get up, coffee done. There's no thought process there.
Yep. Yeah. So my morning routine is very automated now. And I've just kind of built that again. A lot of my behaviors are automated. They're all very much into my circadian rhythm. So as soon as my alarm goes off, it never occurs to me that the snooze button exists. I haven't thought about the snooze button in more than 2 decades. So it doesn't occur to me that it exists. So I take my phone, I turn it upside down so the alarm stops going. And then I put my feet on the floor. Then I walk downstairs. I put a coffee pot in an espresso machine because, well, caffeine addict.
Yeah.
And then I pull my vitamins out and I start getting my BCAAs and electrolytes together. And at that point, somewhere in front of the sink is when I usually wake up. It's
Like a
been
sleep.
so long. Yeah, I'm not really aware. I'm not really conscious, and I'm definitely not awake before I get downstairs and the coffee machine starts moving. Right at that point, I've actually been moving, but kind of in a sleepwalk state for probably 20 to 30 seconds. But it's so regimented, it's so automated. I don't think about it at all, and that's the magic of habit, right? But you have to
Is
earn
that so? What
habit.
you've done there, that breaking it dodown, is that
Yeah.
a kind of the biohacking is really popular term at the moment. Everyone's biohacking, right?
Mhm.
Would that be an example of biohacking?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, since I talked to you last, actually, I've become a board certified master neuroplastician, which is a very difficult thing to say and a difficult thing to earn, but really easy to understand. I love neurosciences, so I've been doing tremendous amount of work in neurochemistry, neuroeconomics, evolutionary psychology, and those disciplines together combine to form the majority of my coaching practice. I think humans are wonderful creatures, but definitely hackable, and we can hack each other and we can hack ourselves. And that's one of the joys of being a great coach is, knowing that I have all of these incredible tools, and that the people that I'm in front of are going to behave differently as a result of my input. And actually, I can get that done even if they're resistant, if they're will resistant, because, well, like I said, hackable.
So just to go back on your point then, because this is obviously I want to give as much value to people watching this. So
Sure.
generally we're
Yeah.
going to have business leaders on here that watch this going, well, that's okay for you, right? That works for me, maybe not for me. So let's imagine we're talking to somebody that has very little time, which is of course a big one, right? They're up early, they're in late, potentially drinking a bit too much, not looking
Yep.
after the alcohol side of things, diets all over the place, they're in bad shape, their sleep's shit, right? How would you look at that individual and say, right, here's the three things you can do that are really simple, a great place to start, and
Yeah.
you can start to hack your own, biohack yourself.
Yeah, look, I think the low hanging fruit is sleep. Okay, everybody likes sleep. Just recognize we don't get stronger in the gym. Okay, we get weaker, right? When you're in the gym and you're working out, you're actually burning off glycogen. All of the calories are going. The energy is leaving your body. That's not when you're getting stronger. That's when you're breaking down. You're only getting stronger when you're asleep. And so sleep is actually the low hanging fruit, and making sure that you're not taking in calories 2 to 3 hours before you sleep, then actually sleeping 7 hours. And you don't need to sleep more than that. And you shouldn't sleep less than six. That's kind of the sweet spot, especially for males. It's actually 7 hours for males and 7 hours and 20 minutes for females because, well, as the science shows us, beauty sleep is it's a thing. It's about 20 minutes actually. So yes, women need a little bit more sleep than men do. But yeah, you need to heal first of all. Otherwise, the damage that you're doing during the day and exercise isn't going to matter. You're not going to be able to heal properly. So make sure you fix your sleep first. And actually, I've done this. I've convinced a board of directors to give a sleep bonus to their executives if they consistently sleep more than
Wow.
7 hours of good quality sleep. Yeah, it's really because their decision making quality gets better, right? Like it's not a brainer. If you sleep better, your input seeking behavior is going to be better, your energy level is going to be better, your decision making quality is going to be better, you're going to have less anxiety, more patience, and all of everything just benefits a lot
Yeah.
with sleep. So I think that's the first thing. And then exercise. You have to be moving your body. We are bio psychosocial animals, right? We don't exist outside of that triad. We're not a disembodied mind, right? And we're not a brainless meat machine, and we're not individuals. We are social, and so one of the easiest ways to get into exercise is to put somebody around you that you like that can help to keep you accountable and drag you there. And that's why like starting off with a trainer is such a good hack, right? You make yourself socially accountable. You are a social animal. We've only ever survived this planet together. We're not at all. And if you surround yourself with people that are going to the gym and constantly doing it and you like their company, you're much more likely to do it yourself. So those are the two big ones, right? Sleep, exercise, and I think just water. You are made up of like 70 to 80% water yourself. Just make sure you're hydrated. Your brain actually is the largest consumer of water and calories in the body. And if you're doing a lot of thinking like the majority of CXOs should be doing, even though some of you aren't, if you're doing a lot of I know you. But if you're doing the thinking at the level, at the depth, at the industrial depth that you should be thinking while you're making decisions on behalf of 5,000 families, you're going to burn a lot of calories in that brain. And so you need to feed that first of all with really healthy calories and water. You need those two things. You need carbs and water in order to think properly. So
I mean,
yeah.
the amount of very successful people that I speak to that drink no water, hardly ever sleep, and drink coffee all day and drink two, three times a
Mhm.
week is astronomical. And it leads me to the next question: is like, imagine what you could do if you actually looked after yourself. And it leads me very much into the next point I wanted to cover.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this a couple of times, right? Which is, we talk a lot about performance and being in shape and how that can impact your business. I know you've
Yep.
got a lot of information behind it. So do you mind talking about that subject a little bit?
About performance in business.
Yeah, so,
Oh, it's
CEOs.
relationship to business. Yeah, like business. Oh, this became really important to me actually. I did a bunch of research on this a couple of years ago, and I was looking for the impact on profitability actually if leaders
Yes.
are fit, physically fit. Obviously, if they're mentally fit, if they're learning and developing themselves, yes, there's an impact on the bottom line. We can show that pretty easily, but does it matter if your CEO is physically fit? And does it matter what kind of physically fit that CEO is? And actually, it turns out that matters too. So I was working on the S&P 1500, and I found these great studies actually over the same decade of data. The 1500 Standard and Poor's top companies, same decade of data, and they were actually looking at the impact of sports in CEO lives on the bottom line of the companies. And I just thought, man, this is really fascinating because I found that if you take two sports like that would take about the same amount of time. And I know you mentioned like, oh, I don't have time, but you and me and Elon Musk, we have the same amount of time, right? We've got 24 hours today and that's it. It's the only thing that we all actually have exactly the same of.
Yeah.
So I don't take that excuse, right? You're prioritizing differently, but you have exactly the same amount of time as I do. But yeah, so I was interested in seeing what the impact of the kind of fitness or kind of sport was. And we found out was that in the Standard and Poor's 1500 top companies over that decade of data, companies that were run by CEOs who ran marathons were 57% more market profitable than companies that were run by CEOs who played golf. And I was like, that's even though look, it takes 4 hours to run a marathon, right? It takes 4 hours to play a round of golf, but obviously very different fitness levels. So it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of intensity.
Yeah.
And so it really does matter on the bottom line of the company if the CEO is capable of maintaining intense levels of exercise. And there's not really an indication of whether it's cause and which is the cause, which is the effect. Do high performing companies create better CEOs, or do high performing CEOs create better companies? I think it's probably a bit of both. But the impact is really, really clear that if your company is led by a CEO who is obviously obese, lazy, maybe very, very intelligent, but very, very intelligent isn't going to help you after 12:30. Okay. Your decision making fatigue goes up, your decision making quality goes down, input seeking quality goes down. And if you want something from your obese, lazy, mediocre performing CEO, ask them at about 2:30 in the afternoon. They are much more likely to agree with you because they just don't want the fight.
Yeah.
They'll either kick you out or agree because they don't want to actually make a quality decision. And
It's
the
time
thing
for pay
is, like,
rise,
if
right? That's pay rise time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, ask for your pay rise then. And be really energetic about it. And they'll be like, okay, fine, 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 get out, get
Yeah.
out. Because they don't actually have the energy to last an entire day of decision making. Decision making is hard. You have to actually think, and that requires a lot of calories, a lot of water. And if you don't have the physical stamina to make sure you've got blood flow and all of that material going up, well, guess what's going to happen? You'll get lazy. You'll make bad decisions, which means even if your company's profitable, you're burning money. You're not as profitable as you could be.
There's another element to this as well, right? If you're looking at, I think we spoke about this last time briefly about, if a company's looking to bring a high performing CEO in, are they
Yeah.
going to choose the two guys that are in the gym all the time, fit as hell, or the guy
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just as intelligent, just as educated, but they're in bad shape? It's going to be an easy choice, right?
Easy choice. Actually, even if the person who is less intelligent is in better shape, it's a better financial decision for the
Right.
organization because their endurance in terms of decision making and leadership is going to be higher every single day. They'll show up for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours more.
Right.
I mean, not just sitting there, show up. I mean, like
In
really
tune.
show up,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to actually show up to the decisions a lot better. They're going to focus, they're going to seek more input, they're going to dialogue more because they won't, the friction doesn't bother them. They have the endurance. right? And even if they're in a sparring match with their CFO for 3 or 4 hours over some sort of budget thing, it's going to be fine, right? You want those sparring matches, you want that friction because that friction makes us all sharper. But if you have like a mediocre, out of shape CEO, they're not going to do it. They're not going to be in that sparring match. You're not going to have that friction that really makes money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it matters a lot.
I guess they're going to try and put their meetings into the mornings, right? 10, 11 o'clock, because that's where they're
Yep.
sharpest. And I guess, you mentioned there an hour and a half, the difference between someone that's a CEO that's fit and the CEO's
Mm-hmm.
not. That's going to compound a lot, right, over the weeks and months and years if compared to
Yeah, of course.
two separate. Is that where the kind of, the profitability, when you look to those companies, was it over a set amount of time, or how did that look?
Yes, it was a decade of
A
average
decade,
data.
right?
Yeah,
Okay,
1,500, the top 1,500 companies in the world,
right,
a decade of data on both sides, the golf side and the marathon side.
right.
But see, both of those things can be fixed, right? If you have a fit CEO that doesn't have everything that they need in terms of mental tools, that can be fixed. You can learn those things.
Yeah,
And if you have a CEO that's not physically fit, but they have all of the experience and the education and the acumen that you need to make those decisions, the body can be fixed. Like we're a million years old in here. These machines, these are a million years old. And the good news is that your body is the product of 10,000 successful generations of survival and adaptation, and you don't deal with any of the kinds of crap that your ancestors dealt with to earn you the right to exist. Like they fought through wars and famine and flood and disease, and they earned you the right to exist, and that's why your body is so adaptable. Trust me, if you challenge it, it will change.
we hear a lot, unfortunately, people saying to themselves, it's too late. I'm 50, I can't make the change, I've got too many bad habits. But
Yeah,
we
yeah.
see the ones that take action and how quickly they change is really testament to what you
Yep.
just said, which is the body changes quickly.
Yeah, yeah, and whatever you don't use, you lose, right? Your body changes. And it's the same in the brain, right? Whatever fires together, wires together. Whatever fires apart, wires apart. The body is built exactly the same. It's a million-year old, successfully improving design, right? And you're the latest iteration of that design. Trust me, your body is going to be fine.
Yeah,
It'll adapt. What it can't adapt to is abundance. We have no tools for that. And I think that's one of the biggest eye openers, right? Is like your brain right here in the amygdala right in the back there, you've got a trigger there that when you're depleted and you don't have enough energy and your brain is doing the math and it realizes that you're probably going to die of hunger, you will get a burst of energy and you will kill for bread if it is necessary to keep you alive, because your ancestors dealt with that. And the ones who fought for bread when they were dying lived better than the ones who didn't. Okay. So you have that trigger. What you don't have a trigger for is recognizing when you've eaten so much, it'll probably kill you, right? We don't have that because none of our ancestors dealt with abundance.
yeah,
None of our ancestors dealt with Deliveroo and Uber Eats. They didn't have those problems. And those are significant problems when you can eat not just once a day, but 3, 4 times a day, and you can eat whatever you want and you can have it in 25 minutes. And you're built with a brain that's like, oh my God, sugar, fat, and salt, just come here. Right? So you've got these triggers that are drawing all of these calories in, but you have no upper limit. There's no switch. There's nothing. There's no one in the box in the brain saying, actually, you've eaten too much, mate. This is it. That's
yeah,
probably more than you can handle. No, that's why we have 600-pound life on TLC, is because we have no trigger at the top saying, if you don't stop eating, it will kill you, and it will.
yeah. And that comes out in overweightness, it comes out in obesity, in inflammation,
Yeah,
problems, right? So this is really interesting because let's look at someone that may be watching this. That is all the things you've just said, right? They're eating too
yeah, yeah,
much, drinking too much. Where can they start if they want to? They want to make the change, right? They want to
yeah,
start
yeah,
something,
yeah.
but
No,
they're
I
a little
get
bit
it.
overwhelmed. Where can they start?
First of all, I was there, right? Not so long ago. That's me. I allowed myself to get fat and lazy. I was 115 kilograms, and I was not the best version of me. Here, I was very smart, but out here in the real world, my very, very smart expired at around 2 p.m. because I was like, "That's it. I'm done. I need to sit on a couch and drink coffee or something."
Yeah,
Yeah, I think start small. Start with something you will do. Okay, don't start with something that you actually won't do. Don't make a commitment to go 6 days a week to CrossFit, and like that's probably actually not going to happen. But if you can say, I'm going to lace up my shoes 7 days a week, every day at the same time. That's all I'm going to do. And then you can build that into a habit. And then you take the next step. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to get to the gym. I'm going to make a financial commitment to the gym, right? I'm just going to drink a glass of water 3 times a day at the time when my alarm goes off. And that's it, right? And honestly, that is going to make a significant change. But it's these little things. It's the tiny little things that you do that then you slowly escalate over time. This is not a 3 month project, right? Think about it like a kind of a 3 to 4 year project that you're actually going to get your brain and your body to function at about the same level.
Yep.
And they're going to be at your absolute best. Okay. And don't ever aim for peak performance. Okay. Peak performance is a myth. Peak performance is a myth because it's peak, right? By definition, you can't sustain it.
No.
Like you think about Olympic lifters who are lifting more than any human has ever lifted before, right? How many years do they spend in preparation, and then they bend down and they pick it up, and then they drop the bar. The whole theater of it lasts about 8 seconds, and then it takes them a month to recover. That's what peak performance does to you, right? So if you're sprinting, thinking your sprinting is going to be your new pace, that's not true, right? But we give ourselves credit for our best day, and we kind of ignore our worst day, when what we should be paying attention to is just our average day.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what you want to do, is you want to make changes that you will execute on your average day, and just take it up just a notch here and there, here and there. And that's why it's important to have like somebody with you, is for that accountability. Because yeah, your level of motivation is going to change. And especially when your motivation feels like discipline and not like habit,
Yeah.
you're going to give up a lot easier.
I see this a lot with successful people, because obviously I talk to a lot of successful people, right? And
Yeah.
they describe themselves as all or nothing. I'm on or off, and it kind of feeds into that what you just said about that peak performance. They want to
Yeah.
get to peak performance as quickly as possible, and
Yeah.
that's it. It's like, well, hold on a minute, maybe 100% is not possible, but 60% most of the time and 80% when you need it probably will be
Yeah.
much better than we're doing at the moment, right?
Yeah, look, 100% is definitely possible for about 8 seconds, but that's not what you want.
Not long.
Yeah. Look, you can hit 100% of your heart rate, but you can't sustain that.
Yeah, same thing, right?
You know?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
You can think at your absolute highest speed. Your brain can think in the gamma state, right, between 35 and 100 hertz. It can do that, but it's not sustainable. It'll last probably 3 to 4 seconds, and then you'll be back down to beta where we are now, right? Like, it's just peak performance is unsustainable, and it's not a good pursuit. You shouldn't be pursuing your peak. You should just be raising the level of your average.
Yeah.
And I know it's not sexy to say that. That is not a sexy. It's definitely not marketable. Raise the level of your average day. But that's actually what makes change over time compound. Like all of your CEO clients, all of your executive clients, they understand compound interest. They understand escalating risk. They understand all of that. So if you tap into that and say, actually, you know what, the changes you make just a little bit, add another one, just a little bit. When it feels normal, you normalize it, add another one, you normalize it, you add another one. And then slowly, over a period of like a year, your average day becomes something like wizardly. You would have never recognized yourself.
It's about recalibrating where you think you should be at as well, right? So understanding that you can't be 100% all the time. It's understanding that you need to be a bit
Yeah.
better every day, right? Like you say, compound interest is a good analogy. And let's talk about, another thing I wanted to talk about is something that we, as part of our vision as a company, we're talking about a healthier business community for all, right? And the reason we say that is because we often see that when we look after the CEO, the boss, whoever you want to call it, right, they get themselves fit, and that starts to inspire their executive team, the managers, their wife, their kids. So that's something that we see on a daily basis. But I know you've got some information around that and how that kind of works as well.
Yeah, definitely. Look, people don't follow managers. People follow leaders, right? The simplest difference is how we choose them, right? A manager is chosen by another manager, but a leader is chosen by their followers. And if you have a CEO that's setting the bar high and being a good example in terms of health and fitness, and even mental health and mental fitness too, is like when the CEO is setting that bar really high, people follow them. They're like, oh yeah, actually, this is the kind of person that I want to follow. This is the kind of woman that's an amazing role model for me. And then that role model actually becomes part of the influence ladder of those individuals. It's interesting because as it turns out, your mom was probably right. You are the product of the 7 people you spend the most time with. There's a lot of great stats on that. You're much more likely to quit smoking if somebody who you know personally quits smoking. You're much more likely to go to exercise if somebody you know
Yeah.
personally goes to exercise. There's a lot of great science on that. So you are actually influenced by the people that you spend the most time with. A CEO in an organization spends a lot of time with their C-suite. Those C-suiters spend a lot of time with their senior managers. Those senior managers spend a lot of time with the mid-level managers. And that's how it cascades down. It's like, hey, what did you do on the weekend? Well, you know what? I skipped the movie theater and I went hiking for the first time. And those water cooler conversations become a new benchmark. Oh, really? Hiking? Okay. And since you're a social animal, and since all of your ancestors earned you the right to be born by surviving together, whatever your tribe is doing, you're much more likely to do. I'm sorry. Like you think of yourself as this great individual person, but actually none of your ancestors survived that way. We survived on teams. We survived by being selfish together. We survived by building tribes and taking care of each other and providing for each other and protecting each other and influencing each other. And those who were the most healthy influenced those around them to be more healthy as well.
And I guess that has an impact on company culture, right? If the executive team's getting fitter, is there suddenly fruit on the table rather than donuts? Have you seen that? Have you
Yeah.
experienced that yourself?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and small changes like that, fruit on the table instead of donuts, but then also like standing meetings to cut down on the time that, right? People who aren't lazy, people who aren't, gasping for breath because they walked up 2 flights of stairs to get to the CEO's office, they don't need to sit down. And so you can actually have a standing meeting in 15 minutes that would have taken another 45 on top of that if you were just
Yeah,
like, we blocked off an hour. And so we have to fill the hour with things to talk about. I think Jeff Bezos is one of the guys that's been really vocal about that. He's like, no, there's a brief before you walk into the meeting,
yeah,
but you need to read it before you step in, contribute only what's necessary, and then go out. But we don't have chairs. We
yeah,
don't need them because our meetings don't take that long. They're too expensive. And imagine what would happen to an entire organization that ends up doing that. So it's not just the CEO who's able to make high quality decisions after 2:30 p.m., but every single manager is able to make high quality decisions after 2:30 p.m. Well, that gives you an extra 3 hours of productivity on your day, every day of the work week, every work week of the year. Like, this is a no-brainer.
yeah.
You're going to make a tremendous amount more money as a result of this. So yeah, it cascades down because humans are social animals, and there's no such thing as a grassroots movement in an organization. We know that, right? Even with diversity and equity and inclusion, if it starts at the middle layer, it will fizzle out. If it's led by the C-suite, it will hang on. We know that, and it's the same with fitness, same with employee mental health, same with all of these really important organizational psychological tools. Fitness will matter if it's led from the top, and
Yeah.
it will actually cascade down. And you're not going to hit everybody, but the ones that you do hit will perform better as a result of that. They'll have more energy, they'll put in more hours, and they won't even notice.
Yeah, it's great to hear that because we see it on a small scale, but hearing that you see that
Yeah,
on a bigger sized company from a cultural point of view as well is great. And I think, you know, again, speaking to CEOs and talking to them about the benefits they get personally of getting
yeah,
fitter, losing weight, being healthier, they've probably
yeah,
heard it 1,000 times. When you start talking about profit margins, culture, all that kind of stuff, that for me is like the extra cherry on the top that maybe will kick a
yeah,
couple of people into gear, right? To go, actually, I should start looking at this.
yeah. Yeah, look, profit is a byproduct of performance, right? If you're chasing the money, that's easy. There's lots of money out there. We're printing more of it all the time. But if you're chasing your own performance and how much you can know and how much you can play and how well you can compete, and I think that one of the things that I think those fit CEOs have as a perspective that's fundamentally different than those CEOs who don't. When they're looking at the market for their competitors, they're not looking to their competitors to beat them. They're looking to their competitors so that they themselves can improve.
Yeah,
And this is so important because like stories like Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, very impactful football players. Both of them, they're passing the Ballon d'Or back and forth for like a decade. Um, but I think it was Cristiano Ronaldo said, "Look, Lyle and I, we don't get together for dinner, but there's no reason why we shouldn't because I'm undoubtedly a better footballer because he exists." And Right, but that's what it is. Even though they themselves, they maybe play each other once or twice a year through those decades, they're competing with each other on the same field in the same industry. And that's the same thing that happened with, like Microsoft and Apple in 1997 when Bill Gates bought a third of Apple to keep them alive. People were asking Bill, like, why would you do that? Why would you keep your competitor alive? You just sit back, go home, watch a movie, and watch them die. And he's like, no. If Apple dies, then we'll never know what Microsoft is capable of. We need a strong competitor so that we can perform at our very best. And that is a huge fundamental position shift in the attitudes of fit CEOs. They're looking at their competitors not to destroy them, but because the innovation and market threat or market advancement of their competitors actually pushes them to be stronger. They respond to that, not out of anger or fear, but out of excitement, like a sparring partner. Like, yeah, all right, you want my market? Come get me, and they get energized. Whereas, less fit CEOs, they don't have that energy. It's like, oh my God, we're being threatened. And they tend to respond out of fear or anger because, well, that's what the amygdala does, right? It's a threat response. If you think that whatever's coming at you is actually trying to kill you, then it's either fear or anger. But if you think it's not trying to kill you, it's just trying to make you stronger, and the resistance is going to make you stronger, you'll see exactly the same thing. Instead of fear and anger, you'll see it as excitement.
Yeah.
Right? It's the resistance that makes us strong.
It's like that as I look at the entrepreneurial journey from someone that started from day one, getting punched in the face by the HMRC and by clients running out and the stuff that comes in between, right? There's two ways you can look at it. It's like the world's beating me, this is not going to work, or it's that high level stuff saying, what's this teaching me? How is this improving me? How does this make me better, right? And I see that trait in successful business people, successful entrepreneurs. They go, hey, why is that person better than me? What are they better at than me?
Yeah, we learn from people that we want to compete with.
Yeah.
And competition, for those of us who use it as a tool for our own self-development, it's not a threat. It's exciting. It's like, okay, now I'm in a whole other league, right? If you step up into the Premier League of whatever industry you're in, suddenly the competition is harder, but it's not a threat. It's exciting. It's like, yeah, I've made it here. So I was just doing, I was with the top 100 leaders in PepsiCo last week, actually, and we were talking about how they maintain the energy. And by the way, it's a really fit crowd. I'm just going to tell you now.
Well, what industry was that, sorry?
I was with PepsiCo, the top 100 leaders in the region. Yeah. So they were all together, and they just asked me for something motivational. And I was talking to the CEO, and he's also really fit. I was like, okay, so what's your big challenge? He goes, our biggest challenge, we keep winning. Like we're winning in this market, we're winning in this market, we're big in snacks here, we're big in, like all of these things. He's like, we've got all these gold medals. So what do we do? And I was like, well, okay, so how do you motivate people who are already winning to maintain winning, right? When you're not in second place in the race, but you're in first place, you're not chasing anybody. There's no benchmark ahead of you, right? Your benchmark is you yesterday. So if you're in second place, you can see the person in front of you, you know what the gap is, and you can chase that gap. But if you're in first, you don't know. You don't have eyes in the back of your head. So how do you keep them motivated, right? How do you keep people that are at their best performing at their best? And that was such an amazing conversation to have with those leaders. And it was like, you know what? You need to look for things that will challenge you. You need to set your KPIs a little higher than the ones that were given to you by your managers. You need to be developing yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, so that you know what you're capable of, right? You want to make sure that if you're coming back to the Olympics, you're going to take another gold. And that's only going to be if you're doing the things that you know you should be doing when no one's looking, and you're proud of yourself for that.
So across the whole board, everyone's got up their game a little bit and make it a bit more challenging. So they're pushing themselves a bit more every day. It makes it like a bit like a heavyweight boxer, right? So Tyson Fury, what excites him? He's a multi-millionaire. He's got all the belts. Why should he bother? And that's always, who's boxing because it's somewhere you get punched in the face, right? You've got to be quite motivated to get punched in the face, if you don't need to. Right? And you look at people like himself, and you can see this kind of constant battle they have with themselves. How do I stay motivated? It's really interesting.
Yeah, but you see the love between boxers that respect each other as well, right? Like in the fight, after the fight, there's like really big. There's a lot of energy in that boxing match, but at the end of the match, they'll hug each other. Hey, I really respect you, man. You're such a good fighter. That was an amazing fight. Thank you. So they're like thanking each other. Yeah. Thank you for punching me in the face as hard as you could after 20 years of training. I really appreciate that, buddy. Like either these guys are completely insane, or they've tapped into what makes us strong, right? We're apex predators. We are the most dangerous, most intelligent animals on the planet. And we are the products of 10,000 generations of a successfully improving design. Like, yeah, I can take a punch in the face. That would be, I mean, it would be startling at the moment. And, I'm not going to take it from you, Cameron, but I can take a punch in the face and I can probably keep going. I can run further than I thought I could. I can lift more than I think I can. And actually, the majority of the limitations that we have in our bodies are just, they originate here. We're much more capable than we think. And the things that we're not yet capable of, we'll adapt to over time, because that's the way our bodies are designed. Our, our brains are smarter than we are. You are up here. The rest of your ancestors are back here.
Yeah.
Right. And they're at work making sure that you're adapting to whatever physical or mental challenges are put ahead of you so that you can survive, because that is the number one purpose of humans. You have to survive. And our bodies are built to do it, and our minds are built to do it. We are much more resilient than we give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Let's talk a bit about the new book, because I know you've got this bad boy sitting in front of me, Spartan CEO, but I couldn't finish the conversation without you telling us a bit more about the book, when it's released, and what it's about.
So actually, I've written, I think, 2 books now since I've seen you. So Business is Personal. Have you seen this one?
I saw the, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, yeah. I'm ready.
Okay, good. So this one is about meaning at work. I just think, look, it's not a job. It's half of your life. Doesn't matter where you are and what you're doing. Okay. And I think anything you do with half of your life should be as meaningful as possible.
Yeah.
It's not difficult. And employees who find their work meaningful, and that doesn't mean you have to find the work meaningful, but if you find good connections with the people that you're working with, what you do doesn't matter. Why you do it and who you're with, that matters a lot. So if you can connect with the people that are around you and you know your purpose for being there, then you're going to have a happier, healthier, and statistically longer life. Yeah, you want to live longer? Find meaning in your work. So that was the latest one, and now this one, which I have only in kind of a big, bulky preview editing copy, is Love at Work: The Final Frontier of Empathy in Leadership. And like I said, all of my books are born out of some frustration I have with the world. This one was when somebody said to me, "It's not personal, it's just business," and I was like, "That's bullshit. My kids eat from that money, man. Like, you turn around, you walk away, right? Because that's personal." And then Love at Work came from this frustration that I have that it doesn't make sense to me, Cameron, that the highest potential quality that we have in relationship between humans is intentionally exiled from the place where we spend the most time together.
Yeah.
We've exiled love from work, and I don't know why we did that. And I don't think it's a really good best practice for survival. And I don't think any of our ancestors survived by doing that. I think our ancestors survived by knowing who it was around them that they loved, and who it was that loved them, and who they didn't love, and who didn't love them. And I think that was really important, because in those bonding relationships, you're willing to sacrifice for people and they're willing to sacrifice for you. And that improves both of your quality of life while you're around, and your ability to survive the planet. And if we take that out of the place where we build the most relationships and we spend the most amount of time with other humans, we're really robbing ourselves of one of the greatest best practices that our ancestors honed in order to earn us the right to exist. And I don't mean sex and romance. That's not the love that I mean. And I also don't mean the love you have for chocolate. That's not the love that I mean. But there is a platonic kind of brotherly, familial, supportive, sacrificial love that does exist in our organizations, even though we don't recognize it. And I just want to say it out loud.
Fantastic. So when's that book out?
Oh, it should be in the next few weeks. Like we're in the cover design phase right now. So it should be in the next few, actually, you know what, if you're watching this at least at some point in the future, check Amazon, because it's probably there now.
Yeah. And all your books are on Amazon, right?
Yes, everything's on Amazon.
Fantastic. Right. Dr. Corrie, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it as always. And where can people check you out? Where can they read what you talk about?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
The
website. Yeah, just corrieblock.com. Actually, my name is kind of an interesting spelling, because I think my mom wanted a girl, so I got Corrie, Corrie, as in like Coronation Street.
Right.
Block, BLOCK.com. But if you Google me, I'm very easy to find. Yeah. And if there's anything I can do to support you, please just reach out and let me know.
Well, you're UAE's top business coach, so they're going to be easy to find, right?
I'm fairly easy to find now. Yeah, it's true. Thanks, man.
Brilliant. Cheers, Dr. Corey. Thank you for your time, my friend.
My pleasure. My pleasure.